I am Midjai Oreo. I am the program director at Bedford 2030, and I'm really delighted to welcome you to our Home Health Simplified webinar. Thank you so much to everyone, panelists and attendees, for joining. Special thanks to our presenting partners, Sustainable Westchester, Pound Ridge Sustainability Committee, and North Salem Climate Smart Community Committee. Thank you for helping us get the word out. So at Bedford 2030, our mission and really what gets us out of bed every single day is to partner with and support community members to take steps towards healthier homes, cleaner air, and a better future. And that's really what tonight is all about, creating, safe homes, comfortable homes for the people we love. I'm super excited to introduce our guest speakers, and while they have long lists of amazing credentials, I'm going to keep it brief so we can dive into the program. First up is Kevin Kennedy. Kevin has over 30 years experience as an environmental health scientist and is nationally recognized as an expert in healthy housing. He worked for 21 years at Children's Mercy Kansas City, where he started an environmental health program that has assessed thousands of homes and schools and provided families, childcare providers, and schools with resources to identify and reduce indoor environmental risks that may affect children's health. Kevin currently teaches courses and literally is teaching right now in Omaha, Nebraska, across the country in environmental health assessment and healthy homes. And we're really fortunate to have Kevin here tonight to discuss what we can do to improve air quality and home health. Bob Fischman, Bedford 2030's rock star energy coach. Will discuss how to go about making upgrades that improve comfort, air quality, and home health. Bob, over the past few years, has coached over 400 local community members and gone forward and worked with about half of them to make upgrades. Bob is a building science expert and has long been an advocate for sustainable building practices. He is the founding principal of Sustainable Promise LLC, helping businesses, nonprofits, and communities in their quest to transition to a sustainable future. And finally, we are grateful to have three community members, Jill Farr, Cynthia Braun, and Mariah Okrongly. And Mariah also happens to be the fearless leader of Bedford 2030. Um, Joining us tonight, they've all made upgrades and are generously taking their time to share information about their experiences, how energy coaching helped, and how the work went, and any results they've seen. So, the last thing I want to share with everyone, with the audience, is we have left a lot of time for Q&A. We're going to hear these great panelists for about 25 minutes, and then we're going to have an open Q&A. So I invite and encourage everybody to add your questions to the webinar QA at the bottom of your screen during the first half of the webinar. And so without further ado, let's get started. Liv, if you could switch us to speaker view, and Kevin, you are on.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Glad to have you all here. It's an honor to be participating in this webinar with these distinguished guests. Always happy to participate in things that promote healthy and high-performing homes. So my task is to discuss indoor air quality in 7 minutes, maybe 5. So that's a topic that can take up whole conferences, that there are dedicated journals to the topic. This is a very large topic to condense down, but it does condense down to some key concepts, and I'll cover those. So the first thing you should understand is that buildings are really built for people. We don't design buildings to sit empty. They're designed for the people. So you really have to start with the idea that people are going to occupy that building. So we're concerned about all the people who might live in a given home, but especially chronically ill people. They are the most vulnerable to conditions in the home, and those who are likely to be impacted by poor indoor air quality, poor environmental conditions. You may not know or may not have heard that unfortunately today, 40% of children have at least one chronic disease. Children spend 70 to 90% of their time indoors. A typical adult takes 21,000 breaths every 24 hours. That means you're taking 19,000 breaths from an indoor environment, and a child might be taking 50,000 breaths from indoor air. So the indoor air is essential, is critical to people's health and well-being. Another key point is that buildings are systems, and Bob may likely touch on this. We all think about it when in this industry in that way, that buildings are systems. They're made up of systems that work together to provide that healthy, comfortable place to live. So that's an important concept. Buildings are built for people. Buildings are system. And really, the quality of that indoor air depends on a couple of key things: the quality and maintenance of the home systems, the ones I was just describing, and actually how people occupy their homes. What are their behaviors? What are their preferences? What are their learned practices, their routines? Many of those things can directly impact their health. And as you heard in my years of working with a healthy home program, we visited thousands of homes, and it really came down to how their house impacted them was related to the building about half the time, and their activities, the things they did in their building. Those things together are what affected them. So then when you think about the sources of indoor air pollutants, that also falls into two basic categories. And this is the real secret. Healthy homes, indoor air quality comes down to two things: chemicals and particles. And really, you're trying to manage both in an indoor environment. Common sources of particles include house dust, biological pollutants, any kind of smoke, certain kinds of fragrances, dust coming in from outside. The EPA considers indoor particulate matter of 2.5 micron and smaller. That's the size that's breathable. It's invisible. It's the breathable fraction, one of the top 5 health threats in homes. And there's research to suggest it is by far the most important concern, is fine and ultrafine particles. The other part is the chemicals coming from combustion of different kinds of gas appliances, combusting of those combustible gases for heating and cooling, pesticides when people use them, the sprays and foggers. I think some of you are familiar with radon gas and are concerned about that. There's various airborne chemicals, a huge array of airborne chemicals. I could go on and on about some of the sources of those, and some of those that would surprise you, like everyday cooking being a major source of serious pollutants in homes. Chemical residues on surfaces, both as a result of the accumulation and also people's cleaning activities. And there are a huge array, thousands of different types of chemicals that accumulate just in house dust. So these things create in homes, come from the homes, come from outside into the home, and all of that can build up. There are sources of both chemicals and particles, and that can be from that routine cleaning, can be from the combustion byproducts, can be from gas stoves and other appliances, and then just general remodeling and hobbies are all sources of all of these things. So one of the single most important things that people can do is apply what are called the 8 healthy home principles. These are strategies for creating and maintaining a healthy home. They're very simple, and I've given some information about them. They are: keep it clean, dry, pest-free, contaminant-free, safe, ventilated, comfortable, and maintained. Now, that sounds simple because it really is. If you think about the broader concept of keep it clean, it's all those cleaning practices you might do that reduce exposure to potential contaminants. Keep it dry is just about moisture management. They should be simple concepts that everyone can follow. A critical part of this is energy efficiency and home performance related work. I have actually been a researcher for many years, not just doing healthy housing, but all sorts of research in this field. And we did a study recently that showed the importance of energy efficiency related work and the reduction in asthma emergency visits and hospitalizations for kids living in homes that had been weatherized. So air sealing, insulation, duct sealing, system upgrades, a variety of things that Bob will probably talk about, all of those turn out to be really important for good indoor air quality. So those are all strategies. I provided 3 handouts that are useful, and they go from simple to detailed. So you'll get access to those. The first one is called Everyone Deserves a Safe and Healthy Home. There's a consumer version, a wonderful document that was produced by HUD. It's only 12 pages long, very straightforward. There's a more advanced stakeholder version called Everyone Deserves a Safe and Healthy Home, an excellent, larger overview of the importance of those healthy home factors that I mentioned. And then finally, I provided a document called EPA Energy Savings Plus Health, which is a detailed evaluation of the significant environmental contaminants that might be found in homes that can contribute to poor air quality and the specific actions that consumers can take to address those, both minimum actions and expanded actions to try to address these things in your home. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to discuss anything at length or during the webinar or after, but I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Kevin. That was great, and you did fit a lot. You packed a lot into that 6 minutes and 22 seconds. And again, audience, just want to encourage you if you have any questions to put them in the Q&A. And now I'm going to turn it over to our energy coach, Bob Fischman.
Thanks, Midge. Kevin, great talk. So much valuable information in there. People come to us with lots of different reasons when they want some energy coaching. Sometimes it's, their energy bills are high. Sometimes, it's that they want to do something good for the environment. They hear about climate change. But a great many people come to us, and as we start digging in, we learn more about these things. They come to us with issues about comfort in their home, and that comfort translates to, oh, by the way, yeah, I do have some mold over in the corner here, or there are mouse droppings, and I don't know how to stop them from coming in, and all of this goes back to indoor air quality and a healthy home environment. So thanks for your experience, your expertise, and all the fabulous research that you've been doing to make this information available to through the documents you provided here and through what you're sharing with us today. So thank you very much, Kevin. So as I was saying, people do come to the Energy Coach program because they have different reasons. They want to find out things that can help them make their home more energy efficient and make it comfortable and healthier. One of the things, the way I approach an energy coaching session, I think would be helpful for people to understand. Somebody signs up. I try to do a little research on somebody's home ahead of time. Get the basics. How big is it, and when was it built, and that sort of thing. And then we sit down on a call and we try to figure out what are the priorities. Right. So, is it saving energy dollars? Is it something else? Is it environmental issues? And then we start to dig into what's happening in your particular home. Where are the issues that you're finding in your home? And so we're going to address those as we go through, an energy coaching session. Liv, I wonder if you could put our first slide up here.
Absolutely.
That would be great. Thank you. So our first slide, let's see. Here we go. And we just have a couple of slides we're going to share here. So I'm not seeing it yet. But what we want to think about is...
Can you see it now?
I do see it now. Thank
Okay.
you. So, when we talk about a home's efficiency, let's begin with what's inefficient in a home. And so there are a few processes that we need to go through. We have to understand about leaks in the pressure boundary. We have to understand about the thermal boundary. We want to know about heating and cooling systems and how efficient are they. Are there parts of the home that are comfortable or less comfortable? What's the what kind of air quality do we have in different parts of the home? It's not all necessarily uniform. Um, and then people, of course, are concerned about climate change. All of these inefficiencies actually come down to one thing in the end, and that's that you get a leaky wallet. And we all want to try to keep the energy dollars to a minimum and live a comfortable, healthy life in our homes. So let's have a quick look at the second slide here. Um, so in our second slide, Liv, if you can put that up.
It's just a little slow. 1 second.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, so in our second slide, we're going to look at the top two items here, the pressure boundary and the thermal boundary, because these are essential to understanding how a home behaves. Um, as we look at that, let's have a quick look at a typical home. You've got crawl space downstairs. You might have a garage under living space or alongside of living space. You've got boilers or furnaces, other utility equipment in there, heat pump, you might have water heaters, things like that. And then you also have home construction that allows air movement to come in from the outside and find its way up through what's called the stack effect. So you see the warm air going up and the cold air coming in. Well, that warm air going up and out the top is actually inducing a draft, and you can see that that draft is coming in through a lot of these spaces where there may be things that are introducing poor indoor air quality. So Kevin spoke about particulate matter, but and so that might be pollen coming in from the outside. It could be smoke coming in from the outside. It certainly could be other things that are perhaps even more frightening, such as carbon monoxide coming from a garage or from the fossil fuel burning appliances. So we want to try to find ways to reduce all that, tighten up what we call the pressure boundary of the house. And then we'll also talk about the thermal boundary of the house and how to improve that. Now, everybody's home is a little bit of a unicorn. It's going to be, what somebody has in a modern home versus, a 200-year-old home. The home's going to behave a little bit differently, but you have these sort of general concepts. So what we're trying to do is effectively seal our homes to reduce the energy waste. And yet we want to make sure that there's adequate fresh air coming through, but that the air is kept clean as it's coming through the home. And we can, in an energy coaching session, we'll go through all sorts of strategies such as energy recovery ventilators and things like that. Once we've figured out how to eliminate the energy waste in the home, then we go to the next step, which is how do we get off of fossil fuels and the problems that can cause in a home, whether it's indoor air quality or energy dollars, or even the effects on our overall climate. So we can have the opportunity in an energy coaching session to talk about going forward with ground source heat pumps, otherwise known as geothermal, or air source heat pumps, or air to water heat pumps. There are all sorts of great technologies out there. And then we look at the systems to heat hot water in the home. How about things such as heat pump water heaters? Are we able to work through all those things? So I'd like to kind of wrap up this part of our conversation here with just understanding that there are these various steps along the way. We want to tighten up the home so that we're eliminating energy waste. We want to look at how we're going to improve the home and its heating and cooling systems through what's called in general beneficial electrification, meaning that we're going to heat pumps of one sort or another for heating and cooling and for heat pump water and for heating our water. And then The last step is let's talk about renewable energy on somebody's home. So, with that, I'm going to pause here. We're going to have lots of times for some great questions, and I'm looking forward to hearing what those questions are and how we can help people go forward. Meantime,
Thank,
we're going to hear about some of what people have done in their homes. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
thank you so much, Bob. And Jill, I'm going to ask you to kick off and just tell us about the work you did in your home and about coaching and, you know, please share your experience.
Sure. Thanks, Midge. And yes, now to hopefully do justice to the important topics that Bob and Kevin covered. But yeah, just to share my experience, my husband and I moved to the area about a year and a half ago, and this is our first time owning home. So we had and have a lot to learn about home maintenance and different types of efficiency projects and also just the order of operations, like Bob was talking about, like what should we focus on first? So when we bought the house, we weren't able to get much information on the utility bills or operational efficiency of the home. So that first winter was really just a trial run to see how comfortable we were, how our utility bills were, and where there may be some room for upgrades. So after that first winter, we definitely knew there were inefficiencies in terms of we had pretty high utility bills. We definitely noticed some temperature imbalances, drafty areas, but we didn't necessarily know where to start, who to involve, and like what resources were available. So that's when I scheduled an energy coach session with Bob, and he had already looked up details on the house, and we were really able to discuss a handful of different options, both near term, like doing an energy assessment, and then also longer term, like a full heating system overhaul. So after that session, Bob provided me with a lot of information, including a follow-up letter based on the specifics of our discussion, available incentives for various types of projects, like a list of approved vendors. And then he also checked in periodically, which was much appreciated to see what we decided to proceed with, and then if there were any questions that he could help with along the way. So ultimately, we decided to use a NYSERDA residential energy assessment incentive where an approved provider came and did air quality testing, a blower door test to measure the air tightness of the house, and then also took some of those thermal readings to see where there was like more of those temperature imbalances. And the cost of this was all covered through that incentive. And essentially, we learned that our house was pretty leaky, and the heating system was essentially just working overtime to keep up with the conditioned air leaving our house so fast, mainly through our attic. So I think a big attributor to that was the fact that our home was on the older side, so much of the previously installed insulation likely deteriorated. And like Kevin and Bob both mentioned, this also contributed to moisture in the home, pests in the home, which we also wanted to manage. So what made sense for us was to re-insulate the house using cellulose and really focusing on the attic where a lot of the air was leaving through above our garage, and then wherever there were those temperature imbalances that we were able to capture through those readings, with the intention of really improving the air tightness and comfort of the house. So after doing this work, it took about a week to do everything. A follow-up blower door test was done, and our leakage rate improved by 70%, which was awesome. And we were also able to get our home Pearl certified, which our vendor helped with. And that was a third-party certification that showcases homes with those high performance features. So just another fun way to add value to the home and the work that we were able to do. So overall, I'm really glad we did this project. I will say it is definitely just a piece of the puzzle, as Bob was alluding to, and it's not necessarily a one and done type of project. It's even still a bit ongoing. We have some tweaks being made, and now that we know our house is pretty well sealed, it's definitely opened the door to troubleshooting some other opportunities for improvement. Like down the line, we'd like to convert our boiler, which uses oil now, to either air source heat pumps or installing a geothermal system. But for now, our focus is really just reducing the heating load as much as possible so that when we do switch our system, it's going to be properly sized. But that's all to say that, we're still on this home efficiency journey, not having reached the destination quite yet, but This last year has been a really great crash course in home owning and energy efficiency. And really big thanks to Bob and Bedford 2030 for helping us get started and just being a helpful resource to us. I know we'll be asking for more help down the line. So thank you. And I will pass it back to Mitch.
Thanks, Jill. That's a great story. Cynthia, how about you're on now, please.
There we go. Sorry. So that is a fantastic story that from Jill, and we sort of are picking up that story on the heat pump side of things. What we did 1 year ago, almost to the day, we installed an air source heat pump system and an air source hot water heater in our home. And Bob was super helpful in that journey. We started maybe 2 or 3 years ago, considering our options, going back to Bob multiple times for multiple meetings as we progressed in our decision-making process, going out to obtain bids and proposals for making this big switch off of oil. We've been on an oil burning furnace and an oil burning hot water heater, and I was really wanting to get off of oil for a number of reasons. One big one being the health of our home, the indoor air quality, and also not spewing out that particulate matter into the atmosphere. It was full of chemicals and toxins and carcinogens, and I just it weighed on me. So I really was interested in making that big move, but it took a while to figure it out. There are lots of pieces to understand, and Bob was very patient with us. He continued to explain the technology, which I think still seems like a miracle to me that you can pull hot air out of cold winter weather and bring that warmth into your home. It's still, I know it's scientifically sound, but it still is very miraculous to me that that works, and it works very efficiently. So over the course of that period of time, Bob helped us assess our proposals. We selected a company called N&N in Bedford Hills, Noah and Nathan, two great guys, to help us install the equipment, which are Mitsubishi air pumps, air source heat pumps. So we installed two of them for the size of our home. So we were very careful to make sure we had enough power to meet the needs of the home. We, just went through a very cold winter. So we thought, okay, how are the heat pumps going to hold up? This is a big challenge. They're supposed to go down to -13 degrees. Are they really going to do it? And I'm happy to report they worked beautifully. Our home was consistently warm, same temperature all winter long. We didn't have any issues whatsoever. We felt very comfortable, very warm. The air feels great inside the house. We can adjust the humidity of the air, which we never could before, but we have a little ability to adjust it up or down so we don't have that dry indoor air that used to be a part and parcel of having forced air with our oil burning furnace. The summertime was a pleasure. The air conditioning function of an air source heat pump works really well and is really efficient. So instead of turning on and off our air conditioning system all summer long like we used to try to just turn it on the hottest days and turn it off to save energy on other days that weren't quite as hot, we had this pleasure of just keeping our temperature set at the same temperature in our thermostat at the same temperature all summer long. And it was very cool, very dry, and very efficient. So we were saving money on our energy bill, and we had a nice cool home all summer. So we're really happy with the way it works. We have a year now to look at our data to say that we are saving money. We used to burn about 900 gallons of oil every winter, costing about $3,500. We're not spending that money anymore. Goodbye, oil. Goodbye, oil delivery. Thank you very much. We are just on electric. We just pay our electric bill, which of course the electric bills these days are not cheap. And yet we still came out ahead about $2,000. So I'm happy to report, we're going to break even in about 7 or 8 years. And then therefore, we're, going forward after that, I think we'll really reap the benefits of lots of, savings to that, not keeping, plugging the leaks in our wallet. So Yeah, it's been terrific. It's also very quiet, which is another nice benefit that we didn't realize that our old system had been noisy, but now that we switched to a quiet system, we're like, wow, we don't hear the old system anymore, that old oil furnace kicking on and off all the time. And that's also been a nice kind of a surprise and a pleasant, makes our indoor air quality, like um, the quiet quality of it also really nice. So we've been happy, and I'll be open for questions later on after the panel.
Thanks, Cynthia. I like that that sort of healthy like reduction of noise pollution in your house. That's a health benefit and for your mind. Okay,
Yeah.
Mariah, please join us and share your story.
So, not shockingly, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on all these things. And I did a big insulation project, which I'm happy to answer questions on, similar to Jill. But in this instance, I'm talking about my solar. So, since my husband and I bought our house in 2019, it was in foreclosure. We knew we needed to get a new roof, and that as soon as we got a new roof, we would get solar. And we got a new roof this past year. We got the new roof in June, and we signed up to get solar, which also was great timing because of the 30% federal tax credit, which we suspect will be back, but is currently paused. So we decided to get solar, and our house is a ranch, so it's really long. And we have a boiler that we know we want to get to switch to heat pumps. We've already done the insulation work, so this was definitely a piece to everyone else's comments, a piece in the puzzle. So we worked with a company called Infinity through Sustainable Westchester and got a couple different quotes. We used Energy Sage, which is an online platform that you can tell them your energy consumption and your address, and it can sort of guess what your solar will look like. It's a pretty good guess. And then Energy Sage coupled with Sustainable Westchester, we ultimately chose to go with Infinity Solar, who put together a proposal for us for our solar install. It was installed in August of last year. And I actually live in Connecticut, so close but so far, and it takes a lot longer to turn things on in Connecticut. So in New York, I think it takes like a week or two to get up and running with NYSEG. It took us, ours didn't turn on until mid-October. So unfortunately, I have missed all the good solar months. Um, just to give some stats for everyone, to get some add some relativity to it. So we have 54 panels, which is a relatively large system. It's a 23 kilowatt system. Most our house needs 19 kilowatts to fulfill our energy demand. Our energy bills are insanely high, which is wild because we have a 2,900 square foot house and we have three kids, but only one of them can like reach light switches and turn things on. So just our bills are really high. The cost of energy are really high as everyone's experiencing. So we slightly oversized our system. We built an apartment above a garage that's all heat pumps that wasn't done. So we added a little bit knowing that we'd have additional usage. The out-of-pocket cost for the system was $65,000. After the tax credit is $45,000. New York residents, you get an extra state tax credit, which I did not get. But what's really exciting is my system has been up and running since mid-October. And so the worst months for solar production in the year are November, December, January, February. So that's what mine has been running. And based on my analysis, we will pay off our system if we were just the worst months of the year, we'd pay off our system in 12 years. And the months that we've had our solar system is actually only 25% of the production for the entire year. So in actuality, we'll pay off our system in 3 to 4 years, which is pretty wild and exciting. And then my $400 to $600 monthly electricity bill will be truly gone. And that gives me deep joy. And then eventually, when we switch to heat pumps, the solar is going to offset so much of our heating and cooling demands, which is doubly exciting. And to know that eventually, like I'd love to get a battery pack, and we're really well equipped to fully electrify our home and have the energy source on our home to supply that is super exciting.
Thanks, Mariah. So thank you, everybody, all of you. I want to just invite the audience. I'm sure you've been so riveted you haven't had time to type your questions in the chat. But if you have questions, please do share them. And I also just would like to invite the panelists, if you have any questions for one another, please unmute yourself. And I'm sure that would be really interesting. I would love to hear that.
I'll begin maybe. First of all, Mariah, I'm thrilled to hear about this. As your kids get a little bit taller, they'll save even more money because they can reach over the light switch and turn it down.
I love that.
That'll be the day when kids turn off lights, right? Um, so, Kevin, in our area up here, we have a lot of people who use oil to heat their homes. And I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on oil tanks, not buried tanks, but oil tanks in the home and oil burners in the household, and how that affects home health. The reason that we have so many oil oil-fired fossil fuel systems in homes is frankly that in at least in this part of the Westchester County, we don't have gas service from parts of Bedford north. There is no natural gas service. So people have historically either turned to oil or sometimes to propane as a fuel source to heat homes. So I'm curious, your experience and what your thoughts are with respect to those fuels in a home.
Well, several concerns. I have no specific experience other than one of my relatives in New Jersey actually had a heating oil system in their basement for many years and then converted many years ago. But I was married to my wife early enough to know these relatives, and really early in my environmental science career. Well, fundamentally, first there's the delivery of the oil, there's the storage of the oil, there's the potential leaks associated with all of that activity, there's the corrosion of the storage tanks. Those are all factors that I have directly observed, not in all homes, but in many homes, unfortunately. And then the burning of an oil like that is horribly inefficient, and even with high efficiency systems, just the variety of combustion byproducts. We focus on carbon monoxide, we focus on nitrogen dioxide, which you may or may not be familiar with. That is a significant combustion byproduct that is strongly associated with health impacts in a home, especially coming from combustion appliances indoors, even if they are little portable ventless heaters that are approved. The nitrogen dioxide is generated by these combustion sources. So along with those serious pollutants that are generated, there are a whole wide array of serious hazardous pollutants that are part of the byproduct of combustion, depending on how efficient it is. And the older the system, the less efficient it is. So there's a whole lot more production of those chemicals. That's the chemical side. And then there is the significant particle side, the smogs, the fine and ultrafine particles. Typically with oil burning and with heavy fuels, you produce a lot of around 1 micron size carbon nanospheres, they call them. And that's an ultrafine particle that has all sorts of hazardous chemicals attached to it. So it represents a significant air pollution. And if you don't have adequate or really good, well-maintained exhaust ventilation, you have a real risk of infiltration. And as no doubt Bob showed you with his diagram showing air leakage, you can have the potential for infiltration, even though you may have an effective exhaust system. There's scenarios where you could be reintroducing it back into the house. So I can think of so many reasons why it would not be a good fuel source, and I would be personally eager to find ways to switch.
Right.
Which I should say, we're in the middle of myself in converting our house over to total electrification after I don't know, almost or more than 100 years of using a gas boiler. It was natural gas, but we still used a boiler for hot water radiators.
That's great. That's great.
Um,
We have a bunch of questions coming in. I just wanted to add one very
Okay.
quick thought, and that is that people may not know this, but in New York City, New York eliminated a few years ago, eliminated the use of number 4 and number 6 fuel oils, the most heavily polluting fuel oils. They did this very simply by doing an overlay of the incidences of respiratory disease. They mapped the respiratory disease in New York City, and they mapped where the boiler permits were that had these very high polluting with NOx and particulate matter boilers. And they, believe it or not, the overlay matched exactly. Where there was very poor air quality, there was a lot of oil burning going on. And as a result, the city was able to ban the use of those fossil fuels. So thanks for elaborating on that. Midge,
Yeah.
we got some questions coming in, right?
Can I read a question and answer one of them?
Sure, go right ahead.
The first question was from Kate Rendenberg, and it says, I have a son with asthma. Any must-dos in my home? And I wanted to comment that when I got my insulation work done, the energy that I had did an air quality test of my home, and my home was built in 1967 and had the existing insulation from when we bought our home. And when they did the air quality test, the PM 2.5 levels that Kevin had mentioned were in the dangerous zone. And that's my children don't have asthma, but they're small, they have little lungs. So that was a huge flag to us that the place where my children are sleeping, eating, playing with Legos, it was not healthy for them to live. So I got several quotes from insulation providers. All of them wanted to leave the existing insulation and just put new insulation in the attic ceiling. We ended up going with Healthy Home that focused on the health aspect, which was really important to us. And they removed all the old insulation, put in all new insulation, and then we did a new air quality test. And the air quality is now safe in the green bar, the safe zone, which as a parent with little kids, like definitely was very reassuring to me and felt like definitely the right decision for our family.
Yeah, I mean, you find often that, mice and squirrels and others have taken up residence in the old insulation, the old fiberglass insulation or other dumped-in insulation has made a good home for those critters, and unfortunately, they leave behind, the traces of their being there, and that's a lot of
Oh, we had lots of that.
a
Yep.
lot of bad stuff for the indoor air quality.
Yep.
So that's one thing. Kevin, other thoughts on?
Oh yeah, with children with asthma, there's lots of important things. That's a great story. I would be interested to hear more, not during this, but maybe as a follow-up about this air test, because I've been heavily involved in air testing for 30 years. I'd like to know what they're doing to tell you that. But for kids with asthma, there are some really important things to do. And absolutely right. We talked about the breathable particles, PM2.5. That's a general concept, the particles of that size. There are a variety of things that are in that size range, especially of concern to you might be some of the allergens. Now, the allergens it depends on the type of allergen, can come from a variety of sources. Therefore, there's a variety of sizes. So for kids with asthma, one of the most important things you can do is allergy testing. Kids who have asthma and have an allergy component, that's called atopic asthma, that actually turns out to be a large portion of children. A smaller portion of adults have atopic asthma or non-atopic, meaning there isn't an allergy component. There's something else that kicks off their asthma besides just allergens. And then there are some best practices, but fundamentally it comes down to what I mentioned earlier for indoor air quality: chemicals and particles, making sure you're doing things to reduce the buildup of particles and residues, which includes those allergens and other things. So that's routine cleaning, that's routine vacuuming, using a vacuum that has a HEPA filter on the exhaust, vacuuming not just carpeting, but vacuuming all upholstered surfaces. If you're thinking about dust mites, it's really important to vacuum all those surfaces. There's a whole bunch of different things in the asthma guidelines. And moisture management turns out to be really important, making sure you're keeping the relative humidity in the home between 30 and 60%. It really is important to have a little bit of moisture in the air, and it's really critical to not have the relative humidity get up to where it's excessively damp in different parts of the house. That can contribute to all sorts of microbial growth, not just mold that people often think of. Go ahead.
I was just going to say on that note, Kevin, if you have a gas stove, I highly recommend switching to convection. But if you do have a gas stove, and in your bathrooms, making sure you have vents, you use them and they vent to the exterior.
Excellent. I was going to mention that, so thank you very much. So having a bath vent that exhausts to the outside, running it for 20 minutes after bathroom use, especially for showers and things that generate a lot of moisture. And in the kitchen, there's been a lot of new science related to everyday cooking. You would be shocked at the variety of chemicals and pollutants and particles that are generated from everyday activity in the kitchen, especially high temperature cooking, whether that's cooking with a wok or whether that's frying eggs. Anything that you're using an oil, that you're cooking that oil up to a high temperature, it actually degrades, the oils degrade and produce all sorts of pollutants. So we now recommend that you have that exhaust fan in the kitchen, the range hood. Make sure that it is exhausting to the outside. Many of them don't. And make sure that you leave it on for up to 20 minutes after cooking has completed to fully eliminate all the pollutants that are built up during everyday cooking processes. So people do not use their exhaust fans enough in order to eliminate the pollutants that can build up. So
the other thing I'll just quickly mention is the filtration ratings on air handlers. Somewhere in your house, you've got something that's moving air around, and there's a filter on that system. There's something called a MERV rating, minimum efficiency ratios, and so the idea is that the higher the MERV rating, the finer the particles the filter is able to capture. If you can get up to a MERV 13 filter on your air handling equipment, that's a heck of a lot better than the kind of stock thing that you're going to get at a big box store. And you'll have a much healthier, cleaner home if you do that.
absolutely.
When I did my whole insulation project, I had like 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch filters that were in there. So, and then that was one of the line items was we recommend a bigger filter. They're now 4 inches wide. So whether you understand MERV or not, I'm like, that's a lot bigger. So that would suggest to me that it's doing a lot more work. And
You can get a 4-inch filter that is a lower MERV rating.
good
They
to
go
know.
from 1 to 20. Your typical fiberglass filter is a MERV 2. A minimum recommendation from a healthy housing perspective is a MERV 8. As Bob said, if you have asthma or allergy patients in the home, you want at least a MERV 11 and ideally a MERV 13. I've actually published some research related to this. But the other critical part of it is routine servicing and inspection and cleaning of your heating and cooling equipment along with that filter, and make sure your system can handle a higher MERV rated filter before you start dropping in these super high efficiency filters. But they can be very effective. Recognize though that the typical heating and cooling system is only on 20% of the time over the total year. It's not often on in the spring and fall. It's usually on routinely in the summer and in the winter. That's when it's doing a lot of its work. They all have a fan that you can put in the on position, or even better, a controllable, a programmable thermostat where you can have it routinely turn the fan on, circulate air across that filter, and do a little bit of whole house filtration on a regular basis. You can program it in to turn that system on every hour, for example.
Thank you all. This is so fascinating. I'm gonna we have a bunch of questions now. So Susan has asked, I just switched to the mini splits for air conditioning, since had all window units and use them for heat as well. I also have a wood burning stove that I use in winter for additional heat downstairs because there's no mini split there. However, she's out of oil now and was going to do one of two things: use the wood burning stove, which I find to be a big hassle, or add another mini split. Kevin and Bob, which would you do?
That's Bob's department as an energy coach. I certainly have an opinion, but I think he can offer more expert analysis.
Well, obviously, burning anything in the home, you know, puts particulate matter in there, and as cozy and comfy as wood burning stoves are, you know, the reality is it doesn't do wonders for the indoor air quality for your health. So, you know, the simple answer to your question is to you know, think about switching over to heat pump systems. So you're actually moving off of fossil fuels entirely. But I'm going to suggest, and I'm typing an answer in for you, Susan. Let's have an energy coach session, and I've provided you with the link, so you can you can sign up, and we can kind of go through everything that's going on in your home. Because as you put systems in, you want to make sure that they're going in to effectively handle the needs of your home.
Great. Okay. So we now have from an anonymous attendee. I built a house in Connecticut with in-ground geothermal and rooftop solar. Yay. I love it. My $0 electric bill brings me great joy too. My house in North Salem is an old house that's been added on to for over the years and has a combo of oil furnace, forced air in one part, radiant heat in another part, an electric baseboard in other rooms. We also have a lot of tree cover and cedar shingle roof. Is it worth trying to update the house and make it energy efficient? I'm going to stop from answering that even myself and let Bob answer it, or Kevin.
I think the answer is, of course, it's worth making it energy efficient. Uh,
We all agree.
so, uh, when you get a much older home, though, you have to be smart about how you're addressing that. An energy audit is an imperative. Identify where the home is losing energy. Find out, you know, specifically just how drafty it is with a blower door test. Thermal imaging will reveal where there are gaps in the that pressure boundary of the house, where there are gaps in the insulation, and a competent installation company that is qualified and works through the NYSERDA Comfort Homes program can help you get to that point. Geo makes a lot of sense, considering this home. You have experience with it. It also has, you're telling me that this home has radiant heat floor in part of it. Geothermal works great with hot water radiant flooring, so that's another possibility. But that, you know, it's not the magic bullet. So you got to figure out, you got to look at this home holistically, as was alluded to earlier. What the envelope is, how much of a load you have in the home before you make a decision to switch over. And then your question about tree cover and a cedar shingle roof will, both of those make it difficult to install solar rooftop. You might think about a ground mount system, or if that's not feasible, participate in a community solar program. If you sign up for our energy coaching session, we can help you find your way through all these things.
Thanks, Bob. So Lisa would like to know, how can I know my air quality? How can I get it tested?
Well, and somebody commented Purple Air. Purple Air is a device that it's a consumer device that measures particulate matter. There are over 100 different types of consumer air monitors now on the market. They are not all the same. Some of them are not very accurate. They're not very precise. There's questions about who owns the data, how that person uses data from your home. There's an excellent, and I'm happy to follow up with people, independent organization in LA that evaluates consumer-based monitors against very expensive air monitoring equipment. And one of the devices, as an example, that turned out to be pretty accurate is the Purple Air device that Rick has suggested. The limit there is that the Purple Air device just is a particulate counter, so it measures particulate at different size ranges. It can be useful. If you're concerned about the air quality in your home, it is actually, in Kevin's opinion, best to find a consultant with an appropriate track record. You got unfortunately, in the world of mold testing, there are these people who try to convince you that you should have your house tested for mold, and this is not true. It's bad consulting, it's bad business, and they're taking advantage of people. It's so important to hire a professional, trained, certified individual who has a specific certification, specific background to perform a systematic evaluation of your house that is a comprehensive evaluation. And one of the main things that person should be doing is a walkthrough of the house and applying their own knowledge and expertise about common risk factors that lead to exposure. And then that person can determine which types of air testing might be useful in informing them so that they can better inform you about what might be some potential air quality concerns. And then they can make that determination about what type of chemical testing might be necessary or not, what kind of particle testing might be necessary or not. There's a variety of these things. Unfortunately, because of these consumer monitors, people buy these, or you hire someone and they come in and put a monitor up, and it's very complicated. I do a lot of talking about this in the classes that I teach, and one of the complications is how long do you monitor for it to represent exposure? In the world of occupational and industrial hygiene, they are very careful in worker exposure in understanding how much time a worker is doing a task that might expose them to a contaminant. Time is critical. So if you're going to monitor in your home, how much time should you be monitoring to have it represent your actual exposure? And then some of these monitors, unfortunately, the manufacturers, they have a range that they have come up with based on their own algorithm, and they apply certain adjectives to describe the value that their device is representing. And it's an inaccurate and sometimes scary adjective that they select. Mariah mentioned something saying the air is toxic. Based on what? It's very complicated to tell someone that their air is toxic. Toxic, the term alone, has a connotation of very dangerous, and it might not be dangerous. That doesn't mean it's not healthy, but it may not necessarily be dangerous. So that's why it's so important for something like that you try to work with a consultant with the proper professional background.
So, Kevin, with respect to that, I'll just mention that I've talked about the NYSERDA Comfort Homes program, and there's also the Empower Plus program for those who are in the middle and lower income categories as well. The companies that work in those programs they're part of this NYSERDA program, but they're also, to get onto that, they have to have BPI accreditations. BPI certifications. So I know that that's an area that you've done a lot of work in. The Building Performance Institute am I correct that within that there's also it's not just about the energy side, it's also about health within the home as well, isn't it?
It can be. So certain people, like Kevin Brenner, are who's on the call here, are healthy home evaluators. That is a certification. You point to the Building Performance Institute. That's a perfect example. You'd want to look for a professional who has professional certifications. BPI certifications come from an internationally accredited body. They are a third party certification body. So when a professional has a BPI certification, it's a completely independent certification. They have to go through training and take a test. And there's two components to the test, a written test and some kind of a practical test to show they know how to use their diagnostic tools. So Bob mentioned energy auditors or having an energy audit. You want to get a person who's BPI certified. They went through formal training, testing. They had to demonstrate their competency in using the diagnostic equipment to be able to do an effective evaluation of the potential needs of a home. And Bob has elaborated on what some of those needs are and how you'd evaluate for them. The same would be true for some of the things related to health and indoor air quality. There are specific certifications that people can get that are an indicator that they A, took a test, and B, have a specific amount of a demonstrated experience in the field of indoor air quality. So you'd want to look for someone who might have one of those types of certifications.
And that would be, for example, the Healthy Home Evaluator.
Could be the Health Home Evaluator. There's an organization called the Indoor Air Quality Association that has certifications. For example, the Certified Indoor Environmental Consultant, which has a test, and also you have to have 8 years experience, demonstrated experience in the field working on investigations. So you know that that person has spent a lot of time doing actual investigations of indoor air quality. And then there's also the American Industrial Hygiene Association. But I don't want you to think that that you should rush out and have somebody do this indoor air quality testing. There are very practical things that you can do that we've talked about, best practices, like some of the things we talked about with asthma, that really will lead to good air quality. And if you do the things like Bob has been recommending and that some of you have talked about tonight, related to effective air sealing, effective changing of your insulation, thinking about the envelope of your home, fundamentally improves the environment of the home. And I'll give you one example. So we did a study in Kansas City of a weatherization program that weatherized 7,000 homes under the ARA funding. We were able to take health data from the hospital I worked at for kids for asthma and join that to the weatherization data and see how many kids who had asthma lived in these homes that were weatherized, and how did that impact their healthcare utilization, their emergency department visits, their asthma medicines, their hospitalizations. We saw, just from having their house weatherized, a 40% decrease in the healthcare utilization. They did not enroll in the weatherization program to improve their health. They enrolled in it to save money, like others of you have talked about. But we showed, just by having that change done to their home, the main work was air sealing and insulation, but it led to a significant improvement in the environment without having to do some kind of elaborate testing to see what the air quality was. There are times when that's important, but we know from the research that there are many of these best practices that all of you are doing that really improve the indoor environment of homes. And you can maybe focus your money on making those improvements because they're very well established in the research and in the evidence. And then if there is a problem beyond that, then consider hiring a consultant to help you understand additional contaminants that might be causing a problem.
That's great. That's very helpful. Jill spoke about the improved indoor air quality, and so did Cynthia and Mariah. So
Yeah,
it
as did
seems to
Mariah.
be a
Yeah.
uniform response, right?
And that data, if you don't believe it, that's an amazing piece of research to say weatherization and health are directly related.
Yeah.
So we have two more questions, which I'd love to ask if people can hang on for just a little bit longer. So Donna is asking, I live in a condo built in 1965, have no control over the building envelope. We have a HEPA filter. Are these effective at cleaning the air?
I'm assuming she's talking about a portable room air filtration unit, and they are absolutely effective. We found out during COVID, COVID being a virus SARS-CoV-2 that is passed as an aerosol, in studying the how to remove COVID from indoor environments, we did a whole lot of research on aerosol science, and we found out these portable room air filtration units are extremely effective. Highly recommend them, but there's a couple of key things to know about them. Uh, you want to focus on the ones that have the HEPA filter and possibly a charcoal filter as an add-on. The charcoal filter is good at removing chemicals and VOCs from the air. The HEPA filter is good at particles of all sizes, including ultrafine particles like the viral aerosols. Do not buy the units that claim to be a purifier and use any kind of electronic or ionizing technology. Those technologies produce ozone. You don't want to bring a device in that's supposed to be cleaning your air and having it produce ozone inside the house, which is a major respiratory irritant. So focus on a portable room air filtration unit. The other key part of that is if you buy these units, you want to look carefully at its clean air delivery rate, or CADR. All of these units are sized for particular size rooms, and you want to make sure you're getting a unit that is appropriate to the size of the room you plan to have it in. The other important thing to understand with those is they don't get all particles, they get all airborne particles. A lot of the things we've talked about settle onto surfaces. That's why it's so important to be doing routine cleaning and vacuuming along with the use of a portable room air cleaner, along with routine laundering of sheets and bed covers and things, to try to reduce the overall burden of settled dust, as well as having a technology to clean the air. When you have that combination, you can reduce the airborne particles and the settled particles by 90-95% inside a space. So they can be really, really important.
That's great. That's very helpful information. Yeah.
Okay, one last question. You mentioned the envelope of my home being important for air quality. Does that include siding? I have very old vinyl siding and curious if that's a problem. That's from a question from Lisa.
Yeah. So improving the envelope, if you're able to, so the pressure boundary of the house is the siding, it's the windows, it's the doors, it's the roof line. You're trying to stop the outdoor air from coming through. Um, you have to know specifically what's happening with your siding. I don't know that there's necessarily um, a real problem. And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, that the siding is vinyl as far as the indoor air quality is concerned. Uh, unless there's unless that vinyl is starting to break down and there are gaps in what's called the weather barrier that should be behind that. So think of Tyvek or some similar kind of a product that keeps the rain and the wind out, but it also allows vapor transmission to come out. So I don't know that vinyl by itself is necessarily a hazard for the indoor air quality. But yes, vinyl as it breaks down over the years with UV, that's not great generally as a pollutant, but it's just another chemical that's a problem. But
I agree with everything that Bob said exactly. The one thing I might add, and I would ask or do it by asking Bob, in this situation, would it be useful perhaps to do a blower door test and see if you have some significant leakage coming through the vinyl siding, or the breakdown of the envelope underneath that vinyl siding that you can't see? Uh,
That's a great point, Kevin. So blower door tests are a means of quantifying the just how drafty the house is, and when paired with thermal imaging, you can actually identify where outdoor air is finding its way into the home. And so, for example, if there's a gap around the windows, if there are electric plates on the inside wall with nothing behind it, that's going to show up. And so you can, carefully look at that as it's going on and see if there are problems with air finding its way through the siding itself. So that's a great point, Kevin.
So I see there's a couple more questions in the chat, but I would like to, if you have any more questions, we would invite you to sign up for an energy coaching session with Bob. We've got in the chat how to do that, and we're going to send an email to everybody with the resources that Kevin mentioned, how to sign up for an energy coach, and so that we hope that you'll sign up. And I just want to thank everybody for coming. This was really fascinating. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Bob, Mariah, Jill, Cynthia. And if anyone has any specific questions that you didn't get to ask tonight, please feel free to email us at Bedford 2030, and we will connect you with the right expert or community member to answer your questions. This was really
I'm
cool.
I'm happy to go like share tons of information about my insulation, my solar, all the numbers too. I know sometimes the numbers are really helpful, not just from a data, but also how much it costs. So feel free to reach out to Midge or Liv and they can connect us.
Mitch, I want to address one more question that is on the board here that Mark Teal-King has asked, and that's what's a good place to find solar energy efficiency or heat pump providers? And so, as we do an energy audit, one of the things that will provide you, excuse me, an energy coaching session, one of the things that will provide you with is a list of local contractors that you can then turn to. Uh, that's available. I'll also mention briefly that Sustainable Westchester is one of the NYSERDA's energy advisor organizations, and they handle the entire Mid-Hudson region as well, and they can help put you, by pointing you to lists of contractors that are available to help you get lots of things done. So between Bedford 2030 and Sustainable Westchester, I think we've got lots of resources that you can all take advantage of.
That I can't imagine a more perfect ending. So thank you for answering Mark's question, and thanks again, everyone. You will hear from us tomorrow, and we look forward to hearing from you.